The other big story that has absolutely captivated American politics is something you just don't see every day. We turn to it right now. A recent former president under criminal investigation through his main company and form of business. The Trump Organization now confirmed under criminal probe. Prosecutors going right at the top executive, the money man, Trump Org financial officer Allen Weisselberg, who is under criminal investigation, including over taxes. The New York Attorney General, Letitia James, has been criminally probing Weisselberg, and that's been going on for months, according to sources quoted by CNN. And the New York Times has had a lot on this story as well. This is what prosecutors do to press a key witness. They are working to get Weisselberg to fully cooperate in this Trump Org probe. Now, Weisselberg tapping a lawyer who specializes in tax and criminal defense. So you have Donald Trump's CFO getting his own legal counsel. That can be a sign of splitting. Meanwhile, a family member, Weisselberg's former daughter-in-law, Jennifer Weisselberg, under the previous name, has spoken several times to investigators. She's turned over boxes of documents. She admitted also to NBC, this was earlier this year, that Weisselberg would be the key to unlocking anything and perhaps everything these investigators want.
What do you think he could tell investigators?
Everything they would ask.
Do you think he could be the ultimate tour guide into the Trump orbit?
Yes. Allen Weisselberg is defined by what Donald thinks about him, about saving him money regardless, every day, proving his worth by doing that creatively.
The developments in this case have completely escalated this week. We're joined by Washington Post reporter Libby Casey. Dan Alonzo, a former chief assistant district attorney in the very Manhattan District Attorney's Office that's doing this probe, and Nick Ackerman, a former federal prosecutor with Watergate experience and also served in the SDNY. Thanks to all of you for joining us on what in any other night would be, of course, the top story. Nick, you have covered and been involved in many of these kind of sensitive investigations. One of the first rules is prosecutors always want to have their evidence right, but boy, do they want to have it right when going at big fish like this with the arrayed firepower they have. What does it tell you, big picture, this week that we learned the New York Attorney General is involved in this criminal probe? And second, what, if anything, do you glean from this Weisselberg news?
Well, what I see here clearly is that they really are doing a full court press now on Donald Trump for income tax evasion. We knew before that the New York Attorney General's office was involved, at least on the civil side. But now that they've actually had to come out and announce that they were also cooperating on the criminal side, says to me that they really are honing in pretty closely on Weisselberg, who is a key witness here, and on Donald Trump. I mean, this is the same thing that I did when I took over the Nixon tax investigation in the Watergate case. I mean, it is very important to get somebody who can put the knowledge and intent in Donald Trump's head to show that he knew what was on the return was false and that he was trying to defraud the U.S. government out of collecting its taxes. And Weisselberg is the key witness who can do that. He's the one that prepared the return. He's the one that worked with Trump in preparing those returns, and he knows what he said to Trump and what Trump said to him.
Daniel?
I think that's exactly right. This was a smart move for the DA to team up with the Attorney General, because remember, the Attorney General's been investigating this organization in various different ways for a number of years. They have a lot of information, and that's stuff that the DA wants to know, should know. Frankly, from all public reports, the Trump Organization kind of jerked the Attorney General around for a few years in terms of documents and depositions. And so you want to team up. You want to see that. The stuff about Weisselberg is incredibly important for the exact reason that Nick said, and another one, which is that Trump very famously doesn't use email. So one key tool that is often used by prosecutors to establish knowledge isn't there. So you really need the confidant. And in this case, it seems to be Weisselberg. So if that's what they're going after, they need Weisselberg.
As mentioned, you've literally been in this very office, this DA's office previously. From the public and available evidence, Daniel, does this look to you like mostly a tax case or like they have more than one thing?
You know, it's hard to tell. It's clearly partly a tax case, but they're also looking into representations made to get loans, to get insurance underwriting. I think that one significant area are these business records that they apparently falsified when they were reimbursing Michael Cohen for the Stormy Daniels payments, not just because of everything we've always heard, but for more reasons, right? They falsified records. They probably didn't only do it one time, right? What other payments have been made over the years and were not properly accounted for? The DA is going to want to know that, and they've got quite a team assembled to look for it.
And another question to you about your former office here. What about the rebuttal from people around Trump who would say, if this is about past conduct, tax, financial, or otherwise, where were the authorities in past years? If this was so important, why wasn't it investigated then? It would seem from the New York Times report that the feds, through the IRS and other agencies, slept on one of the greatest tax cheats ever. I say cheat rhetorically. I'm not saying crime. But people know from the Times report that most Americans pay more taxes than Donald Trump, who's worth a lot. So most people can think, gosh, you don't have to be an IRS expert to really look at that. Now, if they looked at it and they let it go for that many years, and then it only kicked back up when he became what he became in American political life, do they have any problem there in your view? And I understand you're sympathetic to the people you used to work with, but what about that legally?
You know, if I were still in the Manhattan DA's office, we might use the technical term chutzpah if that argument is made. I mean, the fact is it's a 5-year statute of limitations, right? So for substantive tax crimes, they can only go back 5 years. And for most of that time, Trump was in the White House resisting subpoenas for his tax records. They weren't even sent to him. They were sent to his accountants. I mean, Trump got extraordinary indulgence from the courts that no one else, in my experience, has really ever gotten. And maybe that's right because he was president. Obviously, there is at least the argument that he should have been heard, and he was heard. But nobody else gets that kind of indulgence. So now here they are. And now they're going back 5 years. And obviously, if it's a longer continuing crime, they can go back a little farther as well.
I think it's honestly a very strong legal counter-argument that to the extent the presidency comes up, it has only helped him thus far. It is not the source of his woes structurally. Libby, we've had the lawyers do their lawyer stuff. You know how lawyers are. You're here as a reporter who's tracking how this is all playing out. I think in some ways we've all become numb to this. But, you know, George W. Bush was a controversial president in certain ways. Barack Obama had many detractors. George Bush Sr. and Ronald Reagan had various controversies. We have never seen in the modern era, since Nixon and the pardon, a recent president leave office and immediately be under criminal scrutiny like this. What do you see in your reporting about how this is playing out across Washington and the Republican Party as well?
Yeah, to have a former president under criminal investigation and, you know, happening along parallel tracks, it's just unprecedented, Ari. I mean, I think there is a sense of fatigue of Trump in one sense, but that can't excuse the significance of these investigations. And, you know, when you talk about tax fraud, you talk about some of these details, there are elements of this here that the public can really understand and can really comprehend. You know, in that New York Times reporting you're talking about, paying nothing or $700 in a tax return is something Americans can identify with. And so as we talk about this in the actual details and specifics, the questions about, for example, the Weisselberg family, perks they got, taxes they didn't pay on those potentially, that's something that people can relate to. We're not talking about sort of Ukraine and, you know, Democrats and Republicans. This is about dollars and this is about morality. And the fact that this has moved now from not just a civil situation, but to a criminal situation is significant, not just for Donald Trump, but all the other people here involved in this. I mean, you know, Trump has dealt with civil lawsuits in the past over things like Trump University, the so-called charity, and he's paid out money. But that's very different stakes than going to jail.